Hey, mental health warriors. Thanks for tuning in today. I was super excited to start the show. So we're going to go ahead and go a little bit early. Got lots to talk about today. And I hope everybody's just having a great Thursday. I know here in Virginia, it was rainy yesterday, but today we have sunshine. So that's kind of nice. Everybody's having a great day. One thing I would like to say is please go out to Veterans Talk trashtalk.com. Visit all of our podcasts, all of our shows that we have. We have great shows lined up out there. Be sure to visit our merchandise to get your merch, because it is Real Talk Thursday. I wear, quit being a triggered pansy shirt. I think it's important. People get too upset and too flustered over silly stuff. And here on Mental Health Warrior Real Talk, we don't do that because, I talk about a lot of things that are near and dear and personal to me. And I'm 100% honest with what I talk about because I think that's important not only to help break the stigma of mental health and asking for help, but also with all the other things that go along with that. But as one of the other shirts we have out there, I have the Mental Health Warrior shirt with the world famous Mustang on there, the '69 Mustang. But more importantly, I have the crisis number on back, the 741 to 74 number to speak to a crisis counselor, and that can anybody can call that number. You don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to be service related. It doesn't matter what age you are. You can call that number and receive the help that you need. But also along with that, we have the ability to call 988. Also, if you're in trouble, like you would call 911 if you're in trouble or needing help, but also, don't forget, you can always phone a friend or, call that buddy of yours or that family member that, that will be there and help you, in your time of need or your time of crisis. December was around. We had the holidays. I hope everybody had a great holiday. January's here. And January always seems to get a bad rep. They're like the oof month, because not a whole lot goes on in January except for your bills roll in for November and December if you went out and overspent your budget. But if you went out and you're stressing about your financial problems going on right now, just know that there are programs out there that can help you with that. My advice is to always pay off the little things first and then work on the bigger things after you pay off the little ones. I try to do that in my life. I think it's not always easy, but something always comes out right? So you pay off your credit card and the next thing that happens, your check engine light comes on in your vehicle or something silly like that happens. But just know that, it's the crisis of today doesn't mean it has to be the crisis of tomorrow. Take a deep breath, do like I'm getting ready to do, drink some water, and formulate a plan because you know what you need to do and you know what you need to do to get yourself out of that and go on and move on to something else that's maybe a little bit more important. First of all, I want to thank everybody who wished me a happy birthday. For those who don't know, my birthday was 2 days ago. So thanks for all the well wishes and the birthday wishes on my birthday. It's always nice to, everybody likes that. Now, I don't know if people wish me happy birthday because they remembered it was my birthday or Facebook told them it was my birthday. But either way, it's all good because I'll be honest and say that a lot of people, I forget their birthdays. So I don't mind Facebook reminding me that it's somebody's birthday because then I can go out there and wish them a happy birthday because I think it's important. I think for some people who maybe not having a bad day or having a bad year or a bad month or a bad week or a bad minute, bad second, to go on and get those birthday wishes from somebody on Facebook. I think a lot of people like that, or on Instagram or TikTok or whatever social media you use. I think people like that. And so it's good. So if you looked at my promo, one of the couple of things I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to kind of dive into because, if you watched the last episode, I've been talking about for the last couple of episodes actually, and everything kind of ties in together. And because I think it's important, it tells a story, right? One thing that I talk about is my own experience. I'm not a doctor, not anything like that. But I am a guy who's gone to therapy, who's learned to deal with my anxiety, my ADHD from my TBI injury, and other things through therapy, through help, through this podcast and talking about it. I think that helps me a lot to be able to express my feelings and what I'm going through. And hopefully, because I don't know, there's no metrics on it, but I'm hoping that I help others out there with the kind of things that I talk about. I will caveat that to say that, if there's a subject that you would like for me to talk about, if there's a question you would like to ask me, usually during the show, I don't answer questions. If Chris will chime in sometimes with Facebook responses, if somebody says something, then I'll answer it. But always after the show's over and after I get Lloyd from school and get dinner, all that, I usually go back and I'll answer those questions that somebody asked. But if there's a subject that you would like for me to talk about, absolutely throw it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to talk about it. If I'm not the expert on it, I will go out and try to find an expert to try to talk about that. So, a couple of subjects that I really want to dive into, not tonight, but I think I would love to get a VSO on my show and have him come on and talk about, veteran service officer. Because it just seems to me that every VA hospital, clinic, whatever, they're different, right? I have not had, but I have limited exposure to the VA because my wife's still active duty. So I'm doing a soft entry, so I can still go to TRICARE Prime because she's still active duty, and I don't have to rely solely on the VA for all my care. So I'm lucky in that aspect of it. But I do know there's people out there that are having issues and problems with the VA. And maybe that's one of the shows I'll do. I'll try to get a VSO on or somebody to come on and maybe talk about that. Because I think it's a big issue, right? If you're a veteran and you served in our country and you're having issues and problems, you should be able to get the care that you deserved and that you earned. And I don't care if you're 100%, 50%, 20%, 10%, 0%, it doesn't matter. If you're entitled to it, you should be able to get it. And I think there's some things going on in the country, and I'm not going to dive into them because that's something you can study on your own, is probably the cause and reason behind it. So maybe that's one of the things I do on the show. But tonight's show, what I wanted to talk about and what I'm kind of excited to talk about is, what do I do? You guys all know that I retired in 2021, August of 2021. So it's been a year now since I retired from the military. And actually, I'm in better shape now than I was when I was in the military. Now, I'm lucky enough that I don't work. I am 100% P&T, permanent total disabled. And also I get my military retirement. So I get both those. So I don't have the responsibility to need to work, and I'm very lucky for that. But along with that, you have to learn to get yourself in a routine. And that's a hard thing to do when all of a sudden, when you spend a lot of times in the military, your life is regimented, right? We know that you get up at this time, you do this at this time, you do that at that time, you do this at that time. And when you retire, you don't have that. So one things I want to talk about is because I went from having a lot of interactions with a lot of people in my job in the military as a warrant officer and where I worked in aviation up at the main headquarters, to when I retired is, and of course with COVID and everything going on, is I'm an extrovert, but I find myself slowly turning into an introvert. And that in itself has created a lot of anxiety with me. And I think anybody who's in my position may or may not agree or disagree with me on that. But I was asked the other day, I was at an event and one of the kids asked me, I say kid, he's probably in his 30s, but he was like, so what I'm having, he said he was struggling because he was getting medically discharged from the military. And he was just, he hadn't found a job yet. He was sitting home drinking a lot, not really doing the right things, but he knew he needed to change, but he didn't know what to do. And he asked me how I did what I did. And I said, you have to put yourself in some type of a routine, right? Whatever that is, right? So whatever your home life's like or whatever you're doing, you have to learn to put yourself in a routine. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today is I wanted to talk about what Cliff Ballman, the mental health warrior, what is my routine that I do and how does that routine help with my mental awareness or my mental health? Along with that, I want to go ahead and talk about what I talked about last week with, the mental pain and how mental pain can force us to do things we normally wouldn't do, i.e. drink a lot, take drugs, whatever. And then I talked about shame last week and how sometimes shame or being ashamed of something can keep you from asking help. But one of the comments in the Facebook page from last night's show or last week's show was something very important because they said, well, I think pride plays a big role in that. And so I'm going to talk about that later on because I think they're absolutely right. I think pride, when you're having issues and problems, especially if you're type A, I'm a very type A person. If anybody knows me, if you know who I am or been around me, you know I'm very type A and very opinionated and have no problems in voicing my opinion. And so I think pride does play a big role in that. And so I want to talk about that some tonight too, also. But one thing I want to dive into is just so you know, I worked as a personal trainer for years. I was also a master fitness trainer in the military. I loved that job, very enjoyed that job immensely, being a personal trainer. But I was also a master resiliency trainer, and I ran that program for a couple of years for TRADOC in the military. So, I've had, experience in that. I'm a firm believer in the things they taught us in MRT training. I think sadly within the military that MRT has become a check the block training. And to me, that's very sad because that training was very good. And I think it really helped a lot of soldiers. But I also think, similar training out there um, can also help the veteran population too. And I know there's other programs out there. I know Nick from BTT is working with a company, I think Moth to Flame, that has a good program that Corporate Rise can help a lot of people and veterans also. Probably ought to get him on the show sometime to talk about that. But so with my background, I say all that because I want to talk about my background. So, one of the things that I have done and started doing years ago is I'm living a very natural life. Okay, so what does that mean? I take very little medications. Now, the caveat to that is I have worked with my doctor. So it wasn't that I just quit taking medications or I quit this or that or the other. It is from medical doctors. I went and found a good functional doctor, and you can look that definition up if you want. Because I know, and you all know that 70 years ago, 80 years ago, most people, use plants and herbs and other things to cure a lot of the diseases that they had. And so I've made that big change in my life. I have a big garden that I grow every year. I'm starting to plan that out myself. I'll probably will build another big garden in my backyard because I'm going to start growing. Been studying the encyclopedia of herbs and remedy with herbs. And so I'm going to grow a lot of different herbs that for me and the elements that I see inside my family that I can buy and make myself to make my life better, my children's lives better, my family's lives better. So I think that's important. I think people ought to need to go out there and get educated on different forms that can help you. I know if you watched my post last week, I don't raise chickens here. I hopefully within the next 2 years I'll buy a farm and move back out into the country. But I do buy organic chickens that are raised. I get them that are fed non-soy diet. I think that's important. I buy my eggs the same way because a lot of these, even though they say free range or cage free, they're fed high corn and soy diet. So I buy soy-free eggs. To me, that's important. And same thing with the chickens that I buy. But one thing I do is I buy whole chickens. I know how to butcher animals. And so I cut the chickens up myself, and then with the backbone of the chicken from the herbs and stuff I drive from my garden, I make my own chicken broth and other stuff. And then another thing that I started doing is all the vegetables that I use during the week, I freeze them, the scraps, because then I also use those scraps and then I will make me vegetable broth out of those. And so those get frozen and then those get made into a broth. And then what's left over from that goes into a compost pile. So food waste wise, I have very little that actually goes into the trash. And I think that's important. So that's part of my diet. And that's also part of my therapy because those little things keeps me busy and doing stuff. Planting my garden, reading books about herbs and natural remedies, spending the Sunday cutting up a chicken and making broth and other things. I think that's important. We eat very little refined food in my house. I cook fresh almost every single day. Very rarely do we eat anything that's processed. Most stuff's gluten-free. And I've noticed a big change in me since I've done that. My skin's cleared up. My anxiety and depression has changed some. But when I was doing this research, one thing that I found that was pretty amazing, I was shocked from, you can go out and everything I'm telling you, you can go out and Google it or educate yourself on it. And I would say, please do that. Please work with your doctor, just like I did, and make those changes if you want to make those changes. If not, that's fine too. But one thing I started doing in the mornings, which has actually been amazing, and I'm shocked by that. I'm gonna tell you about 3 things that I've done in my life that's really had a really profound effect on me. And I've talked about this before. Is one things I do, and they talk about this, is I first thing in the morning when I wake up is I go downstairs and I take a glass of water, about 8 ounces. I heat it up for 45 seconds to make it lukewarm, and I squeeze a half a lemon in that with the seeds. You can Google this. This is weird and amazing. So I drink that. I drink that the first thing in the morning. Why do you drink that? Well, because the lemon water, which is acidic, your body turns that into alkaline. That flushes and cleans your liver, right? What I noticed with that is I was in a better mood throughout the day when I did that. And that happened fairly quickly. It was within a day or two of doing this that I started feeling that change. Something else I do, and if you read about this, now this is kind of very specific and you have to do a little research on this, is I take a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil every day also. So I take my lemon water, I wait 15 minutes, and then I take my extra virgin olive oil, a tablespoon. And why do I do that? Because that is very good for you, like the Mediterranean diet is, right? And they know there's been tons of studies done on this, and you can look at them all up. How good that is for your cardiovascular health and other health the health things that's very good for. So I don't eat fish all the time. So what I do is I take that olive oil. Now the olive oil has to be very specific. So one, you want olive oil that's in a glass jar, not plastic. It has to be extra virgin, and it has to be traceable. And what does that mean? A lot of olive oils, your cheaper olive oils, obviously are made with a mix of different olives, and you'll see that it'll list different countries on there. You don't want that olive oil. That's not good. You want an olive oil that's a single source that has a lot number on it. And a lot of the really good olive oils, you can actually trace back to where that was made. And so I get my olive oil from an organic store. I cook in the extra virgin olive oil also. Not high heat. If I'm cooking high heat, I use avocado oil. Once again, with avocado oil, you got to be careful because they've gone out and done studies. Your cheaper avocado oil, they found out, has been mixed with soybean oil, canola oil, or another. So it's rancid. So once again, you want your avocado oil or your olive oil in a glass container, and usually dark, because heat, will degrade it very quickly. So that's 2 things that I do in the morning. And then also, if you watch my program, is I had Leah on, and she talked about collagen. And so I do collagen and have done collagen now for about 6 months. What have I noticed with collagen? One, I've noticed that my hair is growing back. So if I bent my head down like this last year, you would see a bald spot right here. There's no longer a bald spot there. Okay, great. I that shocked by that, but I knew I didn't have because I did the DNA test. I didn't have the genetic marker to go bald. So if I was going bald, it was environmental. It was something else going on in my body that was causing that. So that's pretty incredible. Now, if you watched the show last week, you know that I had my back waxed. The downfall for that is, and I don't know why it is, when you get older, hair grows out of your other places in your body, and all of a sudden my back got super hairy. So I went and had it waxed because that just made me feel better, because it was embarrassing to me personally, and so that was part of my self-care, was to go and have that done. I never had that done before. So kudos out there to all the people and women who get themselves waxed. That was not the 40-year version of it. Actually, my neighbor did a great job with her company Shades, and doing that for the first time. That's probably something I'll continue, because it just gives my confidence level up. Those 3 things have had a profound effect on me, not only with my mental ability, with just physically feeling better in the morning. And so I do that every morning. One thing I also started doing, and I'm going to have a lot of precautionaries to this, because it's really strange and weird. Okay, I stopped drinking. Why did you stop drinking? I stopped drinking because I'm 99% alone at home with my 8-year-old. So to me, I'm like, I have a drink or two at night. Why? There's no reason for it. So I just stopped drinking. Wasn't because of health reason, wasn't because I was getting drunk every night. To me, it just seemed pointless after a while. So I don't drink anymore, and I haven't drank for quite a while. If you see me drinking on the show, it's usually a cup of coffee, or I have my big, glass mug here with the Game of Thrones, which is my favorite show of all time. A cup that I drink water out of. But and this has to be very specific, and do the research on this, is honey. Now, honey has a lot of properties. I don't know if you know this about honey, but honey is the only thing that if it's stored in glass or ceramic or something and it's sealed, will last for 3,000 years. It never goes bad. And it's just an amazing thing. Now, I take honey for a couple of reasons. One, if you take honey, you want to buy honey that's local to your area. And the reason you do that is because it can help with allergies. You can Google this, talk to your doctor or whatever. But honey from the area that you live in will help with your seasonal allergies. It's helped with mine, along with doing the neti pot, has helped with my allergies. But something in my research on honey that I didn't realize is honey can actually help you sleep. And so a lot of people will take honey at night prior to bed. And this is something that I started doing, and one of the reasons why I stopped drinking. So first of all, if you're taking honey at night and it's just a teaspoon, never have alcohol with it. I made that mistake and I was screwed up for 2 days. Reason being is it's two different types of sugars and you confuse your system. And I didn't drink very much that night, and I took honey, and it was like the worst night I've ever had. So if you're taking honey at night to help you sleep and it's amazing, don't drink with it. No alcohol at all, period, at all. So one thing I noticed when I would take the honey at night before I went to bed, and I get local honey. It's from a local farm here in Virginia. And I get the wildflower one because wildflowers seem, when everything's blooming in the spring and stuff, it seems to bother me the most. Is A, I sleep better, but B, I used to never remember my dreams. And now I have these most really vivid dreams, and not bad dreams, because I have PTSD and other stuff. So I know what bad dreams are about. But I didn't have bad dreams. But I will tell you, the first couple of times you do it, I don't know if it's just because your brain now has the sugar that it needs to repair your body while you're sleeping or whatever. Man, I had some dreams, brothers and sisters. It was crazy. And, I've told friends about this before, and they actually had, nightmares and other stuff with it, but then that kind of subsided. But I was shocked by that. And so those four things diet-wise, of course, I eat a healthy diet. And I do the 16-hour fasting. So I don't, hang on a second. I forgot to plug in my computer. It's going to go dead. Give me a second. Oh, got to talking to Chris. I've got to plug in. So, now you guys got to see my podcast stream there for a second. There we go. Now we're back live. Sorry about that. Hang on a second. Now it's going to be goofy for a second. Okay. Why would plugging it in make it goofy? Anyway, there we go. Now it's working now. Okay, sorry about that. So I was shocked by the fact that honey had on me and that. So it's something you might want to look into, do the research for, and see if that's something that might help you. But I eat a pretty clean diet. I do the 16-hour fasting, intermittent fasting. I've done that for a long time, and I've lost quite a bit of weight. I've gone from size 34 waist down to 34, from a 34 down to a 30. I haven't lost a lot of weight, and that's probably because I weight train. So my weight has pretty much stayed the same, but I lost a lot of my stomach has gone away. And I've noticed I got a lot more leaner and getting a lot more cut, which, is pretty good for 53. Now, my age. So another thing I do, and I've talked about this before because it's important to me, because it's something I've always done, is I exercise a lot, but I don't do a lot of time exercising, right? So generally what I do is Monday and Fridays, I go to yoga. Yoga usually is about an hour-long class. I have now decided to start doing yoga on Wednesdays, which is a more intense class. So I'll go to yoga on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I enjoy yoga. I think it's something that everybody should try, especially if you have chronic pain or if you're just getting older and you're stiff all the time. Restorative yoga is amazing. I do spa yoga along with that, and I'm getting into Reiki yoga. I think if I mispronounce that, I apologize. Yoga, so that's just a little bit more intense yoga. But flexibility wise and stuff, it's has made a big change in my life, and I've noticed along with my weight training that it has helped with that along with my running. So Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I do yoga. A lot of times after yoga, I will take my dog out for at least a 2 to 3 mile run. Um, it just depends what I'm doing that week to work out. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have a gym in my house. I don't go to a gym. I have a gym in my house. And so I do a total body weight training workout. Usually I complete that within 45 minutes. And generally after that, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will take the dog out for a run. After that, normally it's 2 to 3 miles that I'll run Falco. It gets closer to Army 10-miler season, or when I start training for that, I'll take him for his walk, and then I'll come back and then I'll run a couple more miles because this will be my 8th Army 10-miler this year. To me, that keeps me mentally and physically healthy. One thing I started to get into, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, just really because I'm not really ready for it, and I'm sure you guys appreciate that, is I started getting into, and it kind of goes along with yoga and other stuff, crystals. And so if you notice that I wear 3 crystals because I am Aquarius, and these crystals help with certain things. And I'm not going to talk about that. I'm actually going to have somebody come on my show who can discuss this and the importance of this. I was never a believer in this, and I'll have to eat crow on that. After what I've been through in the last 2 months and wearing these, it's hard to explain. And to somebody who's skeptical, and I was, I have to eat my words on it. And it's pretty amazing the profound effect that these have had on my life. And mentally, I haven't been able to process that. So I will probably look and try to find and get somebody to come on the podcast to talk about that more, because and if somebody out there who understands what I'm talking about, hey, throw your comments in there and help out with that in case somebody's looking at that. But to wear crystals and understanding how we all evolved and how everything works is pretty amazing. And I was shocked by that. And so today I just wanted to talk about that some because A, it popped in my head, but B, I just think it was important. I think, January is the start of, we're starting the upswing to come out of winter. February will be here before we know it, and then it'll be March. And sometimes that transition of seasons is hard on people. And I'll talk about that more later on. But, with New Year's resolutions, which I don't believe in, and I told you guys that, I think it's important to do little things, right? And so I've done a lot of little things this year to kind of help me and mentally help me more. One of the things that I started doing is, especially with Lloyd being here and his mom not being here and his older brother not being here, is I started doing trips with Lloyd. So we try to pick something to do once or twice a month that's fun. He's pretty busy with Taekwondo and guitar lessons and this, that, and the other. But I try to do a trip that's, me and Dad go out and do this together. We do play the PS5 together. We play video games together, and he helps me with mine, and I just watch him play his because I can't help him with his. I just watch him. But that's a lot of fun. I think it's important to spend time with your kids and enjoy that time that you have with them. So tomorrow, actually, I'm not going to be doing yoga tomorrow. We're going to be going to Jurassic Quest, which is a thing about dinosaurs. I don't know too much about it, but I saw tickets and I bought tickets. So we're going to go out to the Dallas Expo Center and go see what Jurassic Quest is about. I'm taking him out of school, but I told his teacher so he can get his homework to make up and stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. Because it's something that we both enjoy going and doing. And so I think it's just important, for parents and for others to just go out and do something different with your kids. And I'm forcing myself to get out of the house and do more things. And also I talk about that is there's a lot of mental health apps out there that can help. One app that I use that I absolutely love is called Earkick. I talk about that. I'm now up to, I think, day 75 or something on my Earkick. I'm gonna bring it up here. So let's see what day I'm on. Yeah. So day 76. 76, yeah, day 76. And so I really love that app. One thing that Earkick does that tracks your mental behavior based on weather patterns and other stuff going on. So you can kind of go back and look at maybe there's a pattern that you feel differently when the moon's at a different phase or when it's raining outside or sunny or something. It kind of tracks that, which is kind of neat. And it's probably one of the best mental health apps that I've ever seen in my progress of doing what I'm doing. They don't, full disclosure, they don't sponsor my show. I had one of the co-founders on my podcast. I'm just a user of the app and I think it's really great and I get a lot of benefit out of it. The breathing exercises, the anxiety video they have on there is truly amazing. Now it doesn't work on Android right now. They're trying to get that done. It's kind of expensive. They're a small company. So that hopefully this year they'll be able to have it available for Android, but you can use your computer or laptop to go to earkick.com and download that and use it on your computer if you can't get on your iPhone. Sorry, not your iPhone, your Android. So that's great. One of the things I talked about in the beginning was, I wanted to dive into what we talked about last week. And so just to recap real quick, I kind of went over the diet and the changes I've made in my life this year. I talked about the importance of me and exercising. But one thing I didn't talk about with yoga real quick, and I'll go back to that, is going to yoga class every day gives me that social interaction that I didn't have before. So that has actually filled a void in my life, which is nice. I'm hoping this year maybe I can go out and do more speaking events. I enjoy doing those. With the economy and stuff, I haven't been able to do too many speaking events. I've done some live events, but I'd like to go back to doing some more in-person speaking events. If you'd like for me to come out and do a speaking event, you can go to cliffordbauman.com. You can book me through my website. I give you an estimate on the cost expenditures of me coming out to do it. And so I'm hopefully get more involved with that this year. Fingers crossed. But, what I've been talking about this week is a lot of this month is mental pain and how mental pain can affect our lives. It's affected my life. It's made me do things that I normally wouldn't do. And so I've had to learn how to get through that. And that's one of the things I talked about earlier on. So in some of the comments from last week's show that came up, one of the persons in there talked about pride. And sometimes pride, and I think they're right, can be just as much as a roadblock to asking for help as shame can. And thank you for saying that comment. And I think you're absolutely right. And that was something that I missed in me thinking about what I wanted to talk about and bringing shame into the conversation. I think pride should have been brought into the conversation because I think, pride, and especially if you're a man, really stands in the way of doing a lot of things. And I think that, and women too, don't get me wrong, but I think he was right. And he was right. I think between shame and pride, they can really be a barrier to somebody asking for help. And, I fully agree with that. And I know when looking back at my situation in my life, that I feel that probably played a role too in me not asking for help or not picking up that phone and talking to somebody when I was having issues and problems. As much as I felt shame for me having those issues or problems, I was ashamed of that. Also, I think that I think my pride got in the way too. I'm a big tough guy. I'm not going to admit that I got problems. Who the hell's that? Whatever. I can get through that. Well, he's not having that problem. So I think that played a role too in me not asking for help or going out and seeking the help that I need to before my suicide attempt. And I think you're right. Thank you for putting that comment in the comment sections. I appreciate that. That was a great point that was brought up. I think pride and shame and all kinds of stuff plays a role. I think culturally wise, how you were raised, the way you were raised at, religion, all those things play a role when you're having mental health and can be a barrier when you go and ask for help. And I know that's hard. That's a hard one to get through. I'm sorry, shame and pride and and culture wise, my degrees in sociology, and I understand a lot of stuff. Um, those barriers are real, and those barriers really can mean the difference between life and death. Let's just be honest, it can. Because when you are having problems and your life is spiraling out of control, and you just don't think you can make it another day, or you just don't think you can go on, or you just don't think anybody loves you, or you just don't think life's worth living, or anything like that. I get that. I was there, right? I understand it. You guys know that if you watch my podcast, you know that I was a guy that went from A and as close to Z without completing as you can get. You guys know that because I talked about it endlessly, and I'll open and honest about that. Not that it's easy to talk about. Nothing I talk about is easy for me to talk about. I think it's important for me to talk about. Now, I have a good group of friends that I will call and talk to if I'm having issues and problems, and they've been on my show. And so that's important to me, and it should be important to anybody. But I understand that. I understand how those factors can be a barrier in asking for help. Those factors can be a barrier that you don't want to cross because you don't want to deal with the pain that's going to go along with it if you cross that barrier. And that's why you don't. And that's why you stay on this side of it. And you don't want to cross that barrier. And I think a lot of that has to do with, stigma too. I think stigma plays a role, but I think stigma, as far as mental health and asking for help has improved some. Are we where we need to be? No. I think podcasts like mine and other things and Veterans Trash Talk and what we're trying to do with the community, I think all that helps. And I think talking about it helps. That's why I do what I do. But sometimes I get mentally it wears on me. Mentally, I get upset. I don't really hide my emotions, but sometimes I do hide my emotions on air because, I don't want to be a bobbling idiot while I'm on the podcast. But, it's something that, hang on a second. Sorry, I was getting a phone call. It's something that, we all need to think about when we're having issues and problems, right? And so what's keeping me from asking for help? This is your guys' homework this week because I'm about ready to close this out. And put it in the comments. So what were the things that kept Cliff Bauman from asking for help when I was having my issues and I was all effed up in the head? Well, let's see here. Let's go through the list. 1, shame, right? I had PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, based on working at the Pentagon. I felt guilt because I didn't find anybody alive. Everybody I found was dead or pieces of people. So I felt guilty because of that. I felt shame because I felt like I shouldn't be feeling that way. And then also pride played a big role because, I'm a big, tough guy and warrant officer, and I shouldn't be having these dreams, these thoughts, these feelings, and pride kept me from talking about it. And also I didn't want to deal with my family, right? I was 1,200 miles away from them, but to try to explain to them what was going on or talk with them. I mean, my dad was a tough guy. Anybody who knew my dad would tell you that. I would never had those conversations with him or with my family. Not that they wouldn't have them with me, because they would. I didn't think they would. But, find out later they absolutely would have. Of course, it took me almost killing myself to get that point, sadly. But I should have had that conversation, and I didn't. And now I had those conversations with my boys. It's age appropriate because I think that's important, because I learned from my mistakes. And so really look at what's keeping you from asking for help or getting the help that you need. Take a deep look in yourself and find out. I will tell you that my path to therapy, it wasn't paved with gold and wasn't a smooth road. It is rough. And when you're going into therapy, or you got a life coach, or you're got a licensed clinical social worker, or whomever you're talking to about issues and problems, it's hard to go back down that road. because you're going to relive shit you don't want to, or pardon me, you're going to relive stuff that you don't want to relive. But also that road is rough. And then after you get to that point, it smooths out. And if you have a good therapist, if you really work on good techniques, it can really be life changing, not only for you, but for your friends around you and random strangers you meet. I've met a lot of strangers in travels and across the globe that I just kind of noticed something was off about him and started a conversation with him. It happens. So, it's very important. But as I close out here, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. They're not really ever easy for me to do, but I think they're important to do. Please put in your comments in Facebook or whatever social media you're on, both on my Facebook page or VTT's Facebook page or Gruntworks Facebook page. I will go on later tonight and look at them and answer you back. But if you bring up good subjects, just like with the pride, I'll talk about that on the show. If there's a topic that you'd like for me to talk about or jump into, please put that in comments too. I'll be more than happy to address that, because I think it's important that, all my listeners and everybody that supported me, I think it's important to talk about topics that may be important to there. And it doesn't matter to me whether you've been in the military or not. You know me in my podcast that I've had people that are military related and people that are not military related, because we're all one big family and it's all very important. And suicide and mental health affects everybody, not just somebody in the military or not. And affects all ages, children, teenagers, young adults, old people. It affects everybody. And that's why, the Mental Health Warrior exists, to help everybody and just to make everybody's life a little bit better. If you saw the memes that I posted this week, I posted a lot of silly memes. But I think, the one with the fox and the elephant was kind of touching to me and kind of cute, with the fox talking about him having a long tail and then the elephant sitting there. And the next thing that he says is, well, I have big ears. And so everybody has a story to tell. I have a story to tell. I tell that story every week with my podcast. My listeners out there listening, you have a story to tell. But your life and the path you took on your life is why you are and who you are today. Would I change my path or what I went through in my lifetime? Maybe some of the stupid things I did as a kid, but in general, I wouldn't change anything. Because if I did, I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast now and hopefully helping others, because I'm hoping I help others. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I want to wish you all the best the rest of the week. Real Talk Thursday is important, but please enjoy your weekend. Friday's coming up. Please get out and enjoy it. Take the time to do some research and maybe look for that one little thing you can change in your life to make things better. What's the one thing that you can do tomorrow that you didn't do today? How about make your bed? That's actually a test that Louis does. But I'm just joking. I make my bed every morning when I get out of it. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for your time as always. Please visit veteranstrashtalk.com to go out and watch all of our great podcasts we have. I will be on the show this Saturday on the Veterans Trash Talk. So I'm very honored to be a guest host this Saturday on the show at 5 p.m. But hey, be sure and like and comment, follow us on all of our social media, go out to our merchandise store. You can buy all of our t-shirts that I have on, or the Mental Health Warrior t-shirt, because you never know, it might save a life with the 741-741. Please be respectful of others. Please reach out to a family member or friend that maybe has gone quiet or you haven't talked to for a while, just to say hi and see how they're doing. And it's okay to text them. I am not against texting. I think texting can be just as powerful as talking on the phone. But hey, everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in and take care. We'll see you next week.